Well, hello everybody, and welcome. It is one of those things where you think, he's not Stacy, but I'm Barry. I'm the other half of Humorous Homemaking, and hopefully you've been around here long enough to know who I am, but if not, my name is Barry Myers. I am the husband half of Humorous Homemaking, and if you've been sticking around for at least a little while, you know that one of our major goals for 2019 is to help people get out of debt, to help people get through all the mess that is debt and get past it and live beyond it and just grow. So we're doing that. One of the things we're doing is going through my book. This is From Debtor to Better, a book that I originally wrote in 2010, published in 2011, and revised in 2015. It's available on Amazon if you want to get a copy of it in paperback. But I will say this, you do not need the book to follow along with us on this study. If you want it, great, it's yours. It's a pretty easy read. It's straightforward. It's a good reference, but I did write it, so I am maybe a little biased. But today's video, and what we're going to do over the next several videos, in fact, probably about 20, 21 of them, is to go through the book. A bit of a video book club, but also just a class, an e-course on how to get out of debt, how to manage a budget, and how to live on the money that God has blessed you with. So today we're going to sort of go through an overview, give you a bit of an intro, and just sort of talk about what to expect coming up. Hopefully, you're going to share this with your friends. Hopefully, you're going to use this yourself to succeed in 2019 like never before. And why not get started now? January is a good start, but why not? I mean, just pick a time that works for you and get at it. So I do have a few notes, but not a whole lot, because all I want to make sure is that I cover the ground that's also covered in the book and sort of stay on task with that. Today, I want to start with a disclaimer, okay? I am not a lawyer. I am not a CPA. I'm not a tax accountant. I'm not a marriage counselor. I'm not a licensed professional in any way, shape, or form. Okay? So the advice that I'm going to give you is not to be considered as professional or legal or whatever counsel. It is instead common sense advice based on my experience as a debt collector, which I was a debt collector for a major credit card company for about 6 years, my experience as a financial coach, which I've been doing for about 15 years, and the experience that we have had. Stacy and I are out of debt and have been completely out of debt since 2011. We paid off our mortgage and have never, ever looked back. So all the advice that I'm going to give you, all the stuff we're going to talk about, is not based on some book learning necessarily, although I do have a master's degree in business and do sort of know what's going on there. I am not a professional person in the realm of what you might expect for somebody to be teaching this class. Instead, I'm a guy who learned a lot of stuff about debt and was tired of people struggling with it, decided to do something about it, began coaching people and helping them through the mess that is sometimes navigating debt, and then our own experience. So that's what you should expect. The second thing I want to make sure is that you understand that this is not just going to be book. Okay, this is not Barry reading his book. This is not Barry going through line by line the points in his book. It is no nonsense, actionable stuff that you can do. When we finish a video here, you should be able to walk away and put something into action. Whether I assign actual homework or whether you just listen and learn, there are things that you can take away from this that hopefully you can put into action very soon thereafter, if not immediately, okay? So that's goal number one for me. It better be actionable. It also better be common sense. This is, again, is not some, real complicated, difficult to understand, oh my goodness, Barry's talking way over my head. No. This is, let's put it into action and let's make sure it's common sense and makes sense for you, for me, for all the people who may be watching. And then the last thing I want to say there is this is going to be real world. This is going to be the examples that I have gained through coaching folks. It's the examples where Stacy and I have done things ourselves, smart and not so smart, because you're going to hear some of the stories of our stupidity. We're not perfect, okay? But that's the other thing that I want to make sure that we go through. So I know I've only been talking for a little while today, and the videos, one of my goals for them is not to make them super long. So you've sort of gotten the disclaimer out of the way. You sort of know what we're about to get into. But today I want to start it off very simply and very briefly with sort of an intro and an overview. If you read my book, again, From Debtor to Better, if you look at the book, I start off with a brief introduction, and I basically say, listen, debt equals risk, and there is no exception to that equation. Debt equals risk. You are taking on risk anytime you sign on the line to say, I'm going to pay this back. You are assuming that something's going to happen in the future that's going to enable you to pay what you currently do not have the money to pay for. Debt equals risk, and there's no exception to that, okay? So the first thing I want to make sure that we cover is, do you want risk in your life? Now, that's not really a trick question, but it sort of is. Do you want risk in your life? Well, the obvious answer that you probably are thinking is, well, no, I don't want risk in my life. But actually you do, because you're watching me right now. You're taking a risk by watching me. You're probably owning or driving somebody's car, and to get in, turn the key and start it and say, I'm going to go somewhere. You're taking a risk. To own that car, you're taking a risk. You probably live somewhere. To pay rent in an apartment or a house, or to pay a mortgage payment, or to own something free and clear and pay taxes on it, you are taking on the risk of ownership or of living in a house. You have a job more than likely. You're taking a risk by going to work each day instead of looking for a different job, or by not taking a different job. All of our world exists because each person has to choose to take a risk or not. So we all need to take risks, okay? Debt equals risk. Debt is one of those risks. So the bigger question is not, do you want risk? It's, how much risk do you want? How much do you really want? And a lot of people say, well, I can't handle any. And so they get paralyzed and they take no action whatsoever, and they make no forward motion whatsoever because it's safe to just stay where I'm at. They sort of ball up and cuddle up. Then on the other side, you have the, what I like to jokingly call the drunken gambler in Vegas, who's like, heck, let's just do whatever. Let's just do it. We need to find a balance between those two, okay? Because if everybody were always paralyzed with fear and just balled up, curled up in the fetal position, then we wouldn't get anywhere. And similarly, if everybody was like the crazy person who's risking it all on the, gambling tables in Vegas, then it would be a crazy world, even crazier than we currently live in. We've got to find a balance. So all of the things that we're going to talk about in the coming videos, in the chapters in the book and beyond, are how we can find the right balance of risk for us and for our families. Now, I believe that debt doesn't make sense. I believe that you can own a home, cars, take vacation, and live well without debt. Now, can you start out that way? Maybe, maybe not. Are you currently in that position? Probably not if you're following along with this study, but maybe you are. I mean, Stacy and I have said, listen, even if you already are debt-free, even if you already have your finances in order and are doing a budget, then guess what? You can still learn some things here, because we're going to talk about more than just what it means to be out of debt. We'll talk more about that in just a moment. But what we need to do is to embrace reasonable risk. So that's really the thing for today that I want you to think about. Here's your big takeaway, is what does it mean for you to embrace reasonable risk in your finances? Now, maybe for you that means that you start giving, that you've been too tightly balled up and you have to keep it all yourself. Maybe for you that means, you know what? I am going to work a little harder, and I'm going to prove myself worthy of a raise, and I'm going to increase my income. Or I'm going to take on a second job or do some side gig. Maybe for you that means, you know what? I'm going to stop looking at the massive pile of bills that's in front of me. I'm going to organize them and do something about them. What does it mean for you to embrace reasonable risk? That's the thing I want you to be thinking about, because again, we've got to do something about it. We've got to take action. There's your homework. It's that simple. So what does this look like? And I'm going to have to look at my screen for just a second, because I know my eyes may be a little weird and not looking directly at you. I apologize, but in my notes here, I want to go through the various topics that we're going to be covering. We're going to talk about in our next video, what is debt? Now, that may seem like a really obvious thing, but a lot of people don't even know. I mean, again, we sign on a piece of paper and say, yeah, I'm going to pay you back, but we don't know the details of that. So we're going to talk next video about what is debt. We're going to talk about the significance and the real impact of debt. We're going to talk about breaking the cycle of paycheck to paycheck living. We're going to talk about what the key is to making that whole thing work, and how can we make our finances work for us. Then we're going to dive into budgeting. Now, I know a lot of you think that's a bad word. It's a nasty four-letter word, but it is important to know how to manage our finances, and budgeting is how you make your money behave. Then we're going to talk about the tools you need. So other than just talking about the basics of what a budget is and how it works, we're going to talk about all the tools. Then we're going to do the actual budget. We're going to walk through an example budget in the video, talking exactly through how one works, how to set it up, what works and doesn't work, and what you should expect when you try to do your first several budgets. Then we're going to do some FAQs about budgeting. If you haven't already sensed, several videos are going to be linked to the idea of how to do a budget, because we do need to get in charge of our money. Our money is a tool that we can use for us. Our money is a wonderful, wonderful servant, and it's a terrible master. We are going to have to switch positions, because most of us think that we serve our money, and that's not how it's supposed to be. Our money serves us, and that's what budgeting helps us to do. That's why we're lending so many videos to it. After we get through the FAQs, we're going to talk about money and marriage. Stacy and I have been married for about 15.5 years now, and I have found that there are very few things that will bring out the communication skills in a marriage faster or better or worse, depending on how you look at it, than talking about money. So we're going to talk about marriage and money. Then we're going to talk about insurance, some of the bare minimums that you need to make sure that your financial butt is covered. Then we're going to talk about debt. We are going to have to talk about how to tackle debt, because once you get your financial house in order and sort of understand where your position is, where reality is for you and your finances, then we've got to talk through how to tackle debt, because most of you probably have some you need to get rid of. Okay, then I'm going to talk you through my 5 steps on getting out of debt. Now that sounds like the most infomercialist thing that that I may say today, but trust me, I've got 5 steps, and in fact I did a course a while back, the 5 simple steps and all the tools you need to get out of debt, and it really doesn't have to be more complicated than that. So we'll spend some time with that. Then we're going to talk about how to act like a millionaire. We're going to talk about rich versus poor and the mindset that those folks have. Then we'll talk about cars and how to break the cycle of ever having a car payment again. We'll talk about houses and debt and how to eventually pay off that mortgage and never look back. We'll talk about credit scores, because you know what? Those are one of the things. I was actually talking to a person this morning who's like, I need to fix my credit score. It's bad because. And they went off on this long tangent of all these reasons that they needed to worry about their credit score. And I might surprise you with my take on that one. We're going to talk about debt and the law. Now, that's not a very exciting topic, but it's a very important one, especially if you're in collections or dealing with people who are trying to take advantage of you financially. It's important you know what the law says about debt and what the law says about your finances. So we'll spend some time there. Then we'll get into debt management and CCCS, or Consumer Credit Counseling Service, those agencies that say on TV, usually in a commercial late at night, that say, we can fix your debt. We're going to talk about those. What are they? How do they work? Then we'll wrap up the big portion of the challenges there with bankruptcy. We've got to spend a little time on what does it mean to file bankruptcy? How does that work? What is the impact to you, your financial life, and other aspects of your life? And then we'll wrap it all up. I know that's a lot of topics. That's 21 topics if you count today, and that's a lot of stuff to go through. All of it's covered in my book, and so all of it needs to be covered in these videos. So if you want a copy of the book, it's on Amazon as a paperback. You can go to humouroushomemaking.com/shop if you prefer it as a PDF. You can get it Kindle, paperback, Nook, all those kinds of ways. It's out there. But as I said at the beginning, you do not have to have the book. If you don't have it, fine. Watch these videos. Everything that you need, except for some worksheets, are going to be provided right here and through the videos that I will be doing. So this is sort of what you can expect. Me talking to you on camera, real-world application, a little bit of homework. So in review, what is our homework from today? We're going to look and say, all right, what is the reasonable amount of risk that I'm willing to take on and that I want to take on for my financial future? That's what I want you to be thinking about, and then we will talk next time on what is debt. That's all I got for you today. Hope you have an awesome day, and we will talk soon. And in the meantime, do not forget that you are not the servant of your money. You're the master. Take care.